Well, I hope you all enjoyed yourself because now I'm in charge and I can decide when this meeting starts from here on out. Okay. Since the meeting has been called to order and the Pledge of Allegiance has taken place, motion to adopt the agenda, moved by Gillette, supported by Duge. Comments, questions, please vote on your iPad. Where are all your damn pens? Your pens. Motion passes 12-0. Approval of the minutes dated February 28, 2018. Is there a motion? Moved by Commissioner Sauger, supported by Commissioner Gillette. All in favor? Please vote on your iPad. Motion passes 12-0. Public participation. Does anyone wish to be heard? Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Correspondence update. This is a motion to receive and file. Do I have a motion? Moved by Commissioner Brown. Support. Support by Commissioner Kraft. And we got this at the table. Steve, do you want to speak to it at all? Yeah, we haven't had, it's just a receive and file.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. You should all have a printout in front of you that looks something like this. And as you know, in the last couple of weeks, the sheriff has brought forward 2 contracts to replace the bunk beds at the jail, as well as for architectural services for design of a new jail. Those 2 contracts total just over $2 million, and at the time there was a question relative to whether that $2 million could be spent from the estimated $13 million of money that was going to be carried forward from the capital improvement plan in 2017 into 2018. And at the time I indicated that we were being proactive and that we would eventually need those budget adjustments because the $13 million was pretty much already spoken for. And also at that time, Commissioner Carabelli asked for basically a list or an accounting of where that money was committed and as it relates to the $13 million. So the schedule you have before you today depicts not only the commitments that make up the $13.4 million, but also the monies that we think, and I'll say we think, will be spent or need to be spent out of the $7 million of capital improvement contributions that we included in the 2018 recommended budget, as well as a bundling of other projects for the $20 million bond issue that we also placed funding for in the 2018 budget. Before I kind of go through the carry forward column, we are in the process of finalizing a more comprehensive plan to bring before you in April relative to how we want to bundle or think we can bundle these projects. So we're fine-tuning it. This is not a final product at all, as well as the projects that will need to be funded through the additional $7 million. We will most likely be coming back to you to ask for the entire $7 million at one time, with an accounting for all of these different various projects. So just want to let you know that that's on your radar for, our plan is for next month. So back to the $13 million of carry forward money, and you'll see that in the second-hand column titled Prior Year Carry Forward. So you'll see that about 6 different projects tie up that $13 million. So in total, we had outlined a need for $40.2 million of spending for capital projects in 2018 from the original capital improvement plan that we submitted back in August of 2017. So, as you know, the Central Campus project is ongoing. That money is being spent as we speak, and that will complete us through the end of the project and take us to the $74 million that we told you about last summer. The next project is also an ongoing project. There's always constant renovations at the old jail. We've budgeted $2.5 million for that project. That's being spent. It's going to be committed and spent during the course of the year. You'll see that the camera and intercom replacement project is ongoing. That $300,000 is already gone for this year. It's been spent. And then you go way down to the bottom into the IT section, and we've given the IT director roughly half of what he asked for in various projects in the hardware replacement, infrastructure, and software upgrades. We have given him no money for projects yet, and we haven't allocated any of his contingency money. So you'll see that in those 6 projects, we've committed the entire $13 million. Now, I think there was also a question posed in the other 2 meetings as well as earlier this afternoon as to, well, has the cash been spent yet? Is the cash gone? And the answer to that question is no, the cash is not gone, but it's being utilized or committed as we go. So whether it'll all be gone in a month or 2 months or 3 months, I can't really say how the timing of all of that spending, but suffice it to say, in my opinion, that money will be spent in somewhat short order. And we will need to come back to the board for allocations for these 2 contracts that the Sheriff's Department has brought before you. If the cash is not gone for some of these projects, you could make an argument that others have made to me that, okay, well, let's just spend the $2 million on the sheriff contracts out of the $8 million and then come back and ask for budget adjustments for the extra $2 million in the capital project or the Central Campus project. And what we're trying to do is avoid this and coming back at not necessarily the last minute, but coming over and over and over when we know that in these 6 areas, money's being spent and the $13 million will be gone. And as I said just a few minutes ago, our plan is to come back to you with a comprehensive plan on the timing and the spending of the other $27 million on the plan. So I would recommend that the budget adjustments for these 2 sheriff contracts be approved. If they're not approved, we will just reduce the budgets for these, probably the Central Campus project is the biggest one. And then we'll be back before you in relatively quick order.
All right, let me start with Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Steve. Again, what I was looking for is committed out of the committed contracts. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Central Campus renovations, we're committed. We have contracts for that, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that money's allocated. It's got to be there. It's got to be utilized for the contract we committed to. The jail mechanical upgrades for $2.5 million.
That project's ongoing. That's always ongoing.
So that's an ongoing right there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then the $323,000 for the camera replacement. That is ongoing?
That's been committed.
So those first 3, you've already got contracts. That money has to be utilized for what we
Right.
had before. As we come down to your IT, where you're saying the hardware and all these items, you're saying this $1,750,000 is committed contracts already? Or is this
A
something?
lot of things we just purchased, we don't necessarily have contracts for them, but Jayco's indicated when he asked for the money, it was about half of certain categories. He said he needed that money to start spending and purchasing things like, there's PC replacements and laptops and printers and scanners and all sorts of things like that.
So my understanding is that you're committed, out of that 13 million, you're committed, 13,437,000 is committed. 14 million,
437, and that is the estimated carry forward from prior year.
right, so you're telling me that's your commitment of contracts that we have in the general fund. Okay. I personally, as one commissioner, understand that, and you're saying you need additional funds to cover the general fund for the study for the jail, what's it called, architectural,
Correct.
correct.
And now, let me add this. You could also, I believe, look at it as we could take that $2 million for these two contracts for the sheriff's department and say they're coming out of the $7 million that so remember, we asked for $7 million of new contributions that we haven't come to you yet. Remember, we put $7 million of general fund contribution to the capital improvement plan in the 2018 budget. Those monies were removed, and the idea was we would come back to you on a project-by-project basis. So this could be two projects that admittedly, were not on the capital plan to begin with. They could be counted toward this $7 million,
Well,
and so on and so forth. The point is, we need a budget adjustment, however you want to slice the pie, because we already have the $13 million committed.
Madam Chair, just again, one commissioner's opinion, and I don't see anybody from the sheriff's office here right now. I would like to take the bed program off of this budget adjustment, and I'd like to move it to next month, finance, to give them an opportunity to look at some information that was brought to light. I would have no problem making a budget adjustment for the architectural service. I don't have the exact number in front of me, 2 million,
I think it was 1.1 or 1.2.
I'm sorry, 1.2.
Okay, so we're not on that agenda item
No,
yet.
I
so
know,
we'll-
but we're looking at this overall, and I
Okay.
just want to say, after listening to what he said, I'm prepared to do the architectural, but I also think we have to be prepared for this $437,023 that is not in there. Is that correct? We're
Say that again,
allocated-
please.
We're allocated over $13 million, and all we had in there was $13 million, correct?
No, if you look at the capital plan that I submitted,
Well, I'm just saying
the
way it
rounding was
approved, I thought it
13 million. This 13,437,000 was the estimated
Okay.
carry forward.
All right,
Yeah,
okay.
right.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, this came off of the capital plan that was submitted.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. You said if it didn't, you would pare back the central campus renovations, but you've already made those commitments, correct?
Yes.
So you can't pare back the central campus renovations.
What I meant by that was we could take the budget away and then when we had to come back, when we had to pay bills, basically.
But then you would be coming back to us
Right.
to ask for money that you've already committed.
I'm not saying that, I'm not recommending we do that. I don't think it makes any sense at all, but
Okay, my concern is after the jail replacement, everything under that, juvenile down that you have listed. That money, the vast majority of those are under the bond issue. And I'm not positive the bond issue passes at this level. I know there was a great discussion during budget, and I was not in favor of it, but then I voted for the whole budget because you don't vote against the whole budget because you're not in favor of one item. So my question is, of these, from juvenile down to 800 megahertz, how much of this has to be done? The ones that are listed under bond issue.
eventually, all of those need to be done. If you talk to Lynn Arnott, you'll see that most of those items involve heating and cooling units and things of that nature that are very old and will eventually need replacement and have been identified as a need in 2018. And those, the Mount Clemens Health has not been started, Southeast Health hasn't been started. So, is there a need? Yeah, there's been an identified need by subject area expert
Right.
in facilities.
But when we originally had that identified need, we thought that we could cover that and we'd be able to cover the capital outlay budget, do the campus renovation, and we still had capital outlay for those needs. Now that's changed. So now these require another bond where they didn't before. So the ones that are under the bond issue, how many were these in the 2017 capital outlay that you presented to us?
And most of them were the red ones were not. The Washington Elementary, the underground sanitary. Most of these have been on the plan for 2 or 3 years, actually, just haven't been started.
So is this a compilation of 2017 and 18, or 2016, 17, and 18?
No, this is 2018 only.
Well, what I mean is the ones that didn't get done in 2017 are in here.
Correct.
And the ones that were originally in the 2018 capital outlay plan are in here as well.
Correct.
So part of what we have to figure out is if that bond, if it doesn't pass, and these things have to be done, I mean, I didn't have a problem with, we expect to eventually give what was originally expected in capital outlay. I don't know if the board is going to give that plus a $20 million bond. So I think we may have to get some determination on that, because I don't want to commit to other things, to things that we could hold off on, when we have things we can't hold off on that we don't have money for.
Yeah, I would say to you, Commissioner, that when we come back to you in April, again, this is kind of a work in progress in terms of which things we think are immediate and need to be bundled into a bond issue and which can be paid for with cash. So in April, you'll have a clearer picture of which ones we think we can bond for, whether there's an appetite among the commissioners to actually, issue bonds.
Okay, and just, you do understand that the reason we went to this system where we just went to the 13 carryover and didn't put the whole thing in there was precisely because in the last couple of years, because of the 65, the money wasn't able to be spent on those projects and it was spent elsewhere. So while we thought those projects were being done, we didn't find out until afterwards that, so it's to try to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Well, that's our intention for next month, to come with more comprehensive on the 27 million.
I see. Would you like to say something, Executive Delton?
Yeah, I just wanted to, just for the sake of efficiency and time today, we don't really need to discuss a potential bond issue. We're here today just to show you that the $13 million carry forward is committed with these projects, and I think that was what you wanted to know.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. We're not going to get into a
Right.
deep conversation on that.
Yeah.
And then Commissioner Drillette.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You actually asked a lot of my questions, so I appreciate that. Just, I guess, this may be too simplistic, but we've had, about $2 million of new requests dealing with the jail added to the overall request. And just kind of following up on what the chair, Madam Chair said, is there's got to be $2 million of other projects in here that we can squeeze another year out of. I know they all could use to be replaced. I'm sure that's the case, but it just seems like if we could find a way to squeeze another year out of $2 million worth of stuff, then we're not really adding to the proposed budget. And I'll just leave it at that. So I hope that you would think about that and maybe give us a little bit of a assessment on which ones are the absolute priorities that cannot wait and which ones we may be lucky and be able to wait a little bit longer on. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Following along Commissioner Drollett's statements there, and I somewhat agree, that $2 million that we're looking at, and there's $7 million that we've got, why wouldn't we set aside $2 million now and then cross the next bridge over for the additional $2 million that you may need or come back with in hard numbers in probably, I think you said April or May?
April.
Or
No,
April,
I was
because-
alluding to that. Maybe I wasn't as clear as I could have been. I alluded to that earlier. You could think of this $2 million as coming out of the $7 million, and then we would just come back to you with a more comprehensive plan if our estimations are true and correct, and we spend all of the 7 million on these projects, that need would turn into a $9 million need.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucido.
I'm sorry, my questions were answered. I forgot to.
Thank you, Chair Smith.
Thank you. Steve, at the end of this is the total commitment of $40,437,000 with the bond and everything like that. But this $2 million that we're looking at, kind of with the jail and everything, that's not included anywhere.
That is not
correct?
included. This was meant to
So-
tie into the original capital plan.
Right. I understand that, and I guess that's what, I think we're kind of getting at is, things kind of ebb and flow in this thing. So, but when we're adding 2 million to 40 million, obviously somehow or another we got to find 2 million to take out, unless we're going to, magically find an extra 2 million on top of this 40. I don't know if we're planning on looking at a $22 million bond or what, but this just upped that number by $2 million. So I guess the question is, have we looked at, like Commissioner Drolet was saying, how we can bump a couple $1 million down the road, because we obviously need this 2 million. So I guess
That
that's.
whole,
I know we've had this conversation before, and I think we show a history of constantly delaying delaying projects. Sometimes we have to advance projects. But if you look at our 5-year capital plan that we're obligated to provide you once a year, we list projects in estimated years in which we believe they're going to be done. But we have a long history of delaying projects. We're not going to spend the money until we absolutely have to.
And I guess my question is, have we looked at what project do we have an idea of what we're already kind of moving down the line yet? Or
No,
does that come as things get a little closer to?
This document's in work in progress.
Right.
That's why it's listed draft. What you're looking at are the items that were on this year's 5-year capital plan for 2018.
Mm-hmm.
We've not taken a real close look at these, but before we come back and ask for 7 million or 20 for a bond issue, we're going to analyze these and see if there is any projects that we can hold off until 19. But there might be some projects for 19 that we need to advance this year. Remember, we turned this capital plan into you in September and August. We weren't even interviewing for architects for this $1.2 million. We didn't interview until December of 17. We didn't even know the cost. And the same with the bunks. We were investigating different options on what to do and talking to architects. So that's why those 2 projects that are before you now were never on the radar when you received the capital 5-year capital plan back in August.
So and I understand what you're saying, that's fine. But you just mentioned something that we didn't even hire out or bid out for the architects in this project, but that means it sounds like we knew that this project was coming, but we didn't know what the cost. Don't normally we estimate, when we know a project's coming down the line, don't we normally at least say, I don't really know, but let's talk to some engineers or architects and get an about price so we can actually kind of a placeholder? I thought you guys kind of do that at some point.
We talked about it. I don't even think an RFP was out on the street in August when we submitted this to you. None of that happened until the fall.
All right. No, because you just said we didn't know, we didn't do it yet. I didn't know if you knew it was coming, but correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys know a plan's coming, even if you don't have an RFP out for it, you kind of, sometimes on these long-term, you got to do a 5-year capital, you would put an estimate at least, right, of what we think it's going to cost.
Yeah, like we did when we submitted the 2018 budget, we put $7 million worth of, those were all estimated numbers.
Right, but.
And you took it all away. So, we're at a point right now, we're zeroed out. We're zeroed out.
Okay, well, I wouldn't say we took it away. We just put it in a different spot just to hold it until you come, but that's semantics.
Right.
But this was not part of that $7 million at any point, right? In the radar.
not.
Okay.
It was not.
All right. I'm good right now. Thank you.
Thank you. On the second round, Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you. Deputy Delton, if you can stay up here with Steve, I have a question, Madam Chair, if I may. Just rough numbers, what you have on the sheet right now today. I came up with about $8 million for the Sheriff's Department. $8 million. Mm-hmm. You add this too, we're at $10 million. It's about half of a $10 million, $20 million bond, $10 million. Okay. This is where my agita starts. We're talking about an opportunity to buy on this or do any of this. Steve, you had mentioned, I don't know if it was accurate or not, that the cost for the architectural work could be, put into a millage or bond and repaid back to the general fund. Well, I'm looking at all this, and it's like, should we not be, if we did a $10 million bond for the jail right now, and separate these out, the cost of it, instead of convoluting it and just, there should be a capital improvement just for the jail and not have it go with any of this other stuff, so we can track the true cost of what you guys are spending. I think it's gonna be an eye-opener for everybody if you look at it, plus the $2 million, which includes the radios, which is for the sheriff's department. You're talking like $20 million or $10 million. It's a lot of money. That's half of the bond that they're asking. So I don't know how to do this. So I guess I'm asking both of you, what's the best way we can do this on behalf of the residents? Is this something that should be compiled into, and start to talk early, like I tried the other day, about a possible millage, that we should be looking at this? Because we keep adding money out of the general fund year after year. Again, right now, $10 million.
Well,
when do you stop?
Commissioner Carabelli, you know why we're doing that is because I'm going back just in recent history. In 2005, we went through this same analysis, and plans were designed for a brand-new jail, and for whatever reasons, I wasn't here, the Board of Commissioners was scared by spending $90-some million. Well, exactly, for whatever reasons. My point in all of this is for the last 13 years, we've been squeezing millions of dollars every single year in putting off building a new jail. But you know what? That's a 24/7 operation, and we can't shut it down. So when something breaks, we got to dump money. But to your point about tracking, we can very easily track the millions of dollars that we have put into every corner of that jail, including the areas that we're asking be demolished if we ever move forward with the new jail. We keep dumping good money after bad money, and at what point are we going to stop?
So again, my question is, what point are we gonna, I guess you wait for the architect to come back and say, okay, can we recoup any of this general fund money in a millage? You said we can
I
do the
think we can
architectural
recoup
fees.
it.
Be
Pardon?
part of the bond.
I mean, is this something that with the 800 megahertz, I know it's needed, can that not wait until we go out, if we go out for a millage, that could be part of that? Do you see what I'm saying? Instead of taking this all out of the general fund, like to the chair's point, can some of this be, and Commissioner Drolet, can this be moved down a little bit? So we're not having to bond for all that right now. So, thank you.
What I think we may need to do, because we don't want to get into an in-depth discussion about either bond, is we may look at just putting these two agenda items off for a month while we try to reconcile some things, something to that nature. Because I don't think we can do it on this receive and file, having in, you know.
I have no problem moving forward with the architecture. I don't want to leave the commission, I have to leave that portion.
Okay.
I'm talking about the beds is the only thing I'm asking to wait.
All right, I'll let you finish.
But again, we can track every dollar that we put into that jail. Everything's coming out of the general fund, even if we bond for it. The capital debt payment is coming out of the general fund. It's all
Right,
coming out.
but if
We just
we-
get an advance with a bond issue.
Right, but if we ended up going to the voters for a bond and we could relieve the capital outlay budget of the jail obligations, that may help us with this other thing that we're worried about. Chair Smith.
And I just want to clarify at least what I think he was asking. The other day, Steve, you mentioned that there's a possibility that the architectural fees may be able to be like a payback item if we did a bond, right? Let's just say if we did a bond. You had mentioned that it might be something that we could get reimbursed
They'd be
for.
eligible project costs.
Right, so what I'm saying is, I think maybe what Jim's saying is, all these other projects that we're doing on the jail at this point, could we maybe roll those into eligible reimbursements? So that helps our general fund a little bit. It does kick the can down the road a little bit, but it actually rolls these improvements that we obviously have to make, but maybe does relieve our general fund obligation a little bit. And I don't expect an answer, but I think that's what you were kind of asking.
And,
So I
and
just,
you'll see that most of those jail projects are in the
Already
bond
in
issue
the-
column already.
okay.
And the one that's, the renovations, which are ongoing projects, you know, if you've already spent the money,
So
you know.
my question is just if there's anything that comes up with the jail that might
Right.
fall into that category, maybe that would be something to, to look at. And I think
Right.
that's what he was
Except a lot
legally.
some of these millions of dollars are going into portions that are proposed to be demoed someday, sadly enough, but
Right.
I don't know that we'd be able to recoup those costs.
Well, you'll know based on what we talked about. If there is something we can do, that's great. If not, but anyway, we'll move on. Thanks.
Okay, seeing no more speakers, we have a motion to receive and file. Please vote. Motion passes 12-0. And maybe we can discuss actually doing sort of a work session in a conference room to go through some things instead of doing the formal setting in the future. Not something immediately, but when we get towards talking about that. Okay. Health and Human Services Committee recommendations. Budget amendment, we only have one, right? Budget amendment, Macomb Community Action. Motion to recommend to full board. Is there a motion? Moved by Duge, support by Lucido. Are there any questions on this one? I'm a little behind here. Okay, please vote. Motion passes 12-0. Infrastructure and economic development. Now, I don't know if we want to do these all at once because there may be some no votes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call A, B, C, and if anybody wants them voted on separately, let me know, and I'll circle that one to have it voted on separately. Oh, you're going to move on. Well, there's not three. It goes up to G. Okay, so just let me know if you want to vote on it separately. A, B.
Hold on a second. The way this is described, which one is for the $800,000? I see the name with the partners is for the 1, 2.
B, I think. No, that's the
Oh, okay, that's under Justice and Public Safety. Okay. So should I, okay, so.
Don made a motion to roll them all together, so if anyone
Oh.
wants to second it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Any questions? So what is the motion, Madam Chair? Don made the motion to vote on them in their entirety. They didn't allow me to go through and find out if anybody wanted anything separated out. I mean, Don made a motion and he supported it before I sought that, which is kind of like the Pledge of Allegiance.
Conditioned upon us going through A, B, C, D.
I just wanted to find out if anybody wanted anything pulled out. And by the way, nobody may want anything pulled out. So right here and right now, does anybody want anything pulled out? Okay, then Don has made a motion. Commissioner Brown has made a motion. Commissioner Leonetti has supported it. Well, all in favor, please vote on your iPads. We're voting on A through G. I should have asked it that way the first time. I tried to.
No, I know, but the whole budget versus capital projects thing was.
It's everything that's in there. Did you want to vote it on separately?
We already voted. I think we voted on it. You can amend on it full board if you want.
This is why I tried to do it.
This is just putting.
We're just going to move it to full board. We can deal with that. We can deal with separating them out at full board. Thank you. Okay, motion passes 11-0 with Commissioner Drollet voting no. Now we are on justice and public safety. I'm just going to ask before I seek a motion, does anybody want to separate them out? Yes. Okay, so we will start with A, since there's only 3 of them. We'll start with A. That is a budget amendment, general fund to capital improvement plan, jail bed replacement contract. That's the budget amendment. Is there a motion? Motion to table till next finance. There's no discussion on a motion, so is there support? Support by Gillette. Please vote on your iPad. No. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Madam Chair, the reason why I'm asking to table this, I made a couple of phone calls with a couple of different departments, and I think there's some information that I would like to get over to the architect and to the captain at the sheriff's department for a possibility of saving funds. After talking to Corporation Counsel, we may not need to do the lower bunks. When I don't know the number, they didn't give me the division between the two, but if it's 50%, it could be 50% of the cost. Then the other flip side is there may be a possibility of doing something different to even lower that cost even more. So I don't want to delay it, and I asked Corporation Counsel if I delayed it just to give the opportunity for a week to our next finance. He said that shouldn't be a problem. That's why I would like to have it postponed. It'll be the next one as well. Or tabled, rather.
Okay.
Till the next finance meeting.
Yeah, I thought it popped up. Okay, motion passes 11-1 with Commissioner Duje voting no. Okay, the second one is the contract with Cornerstone Detention Products.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to table to the next finance meeting.
Is there support? Support by Commissioner Gillette. Please vote on your iPad.
Departments.
Motion passes 11-1 with Commissioner Duje voting no. Item C, contract extension BJL Enterprises LLC Urban Area Security Program. Is there a motion? Commissioner Brown makes the motion. Is there support? Commissioner Romano supports. Let me get down there. It's already been supported. Thank you.
didn't come up for a
I
vote
don't
yet.
see anybody.
You gonna-
I don't see any questions. So please vote on your iPad. Motion passes 12-0. Now we have Government Operations Committee recommendations. Request for outside counsel, United States District Court for the Western District of Missouri case 217-CV-4254-NKL. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Carabelli, supported by Commissioner Sauger. Please vote on your iPads. Motion passes 12-0. Item 11 is the compensation ordinance. Now let me pull that up. Commissioners, there on one of the amendments, there was a revised version that was put in front of you. And it means exactly the same thing as the one that you got in your packet. The only difference is it made it clearer so that if that passed, commissioners that are in the defined benefit plan would not be receiving 2 pensions. It means exactly the same thing. So we're going to start with what we're going to do is, instead of doing them as amendments, We're going to figure out which draft of 1, 2, 3, and 4 we're going to end up with, and then after we've gotten one of them, we've gotten approval for, then we'll look at option A and option B. And I wanted to explain to Commissioner Gillette, I got your recommendation in writing. The reason that we went with the 2 years is because we can't vote on what a commissioner in the future should be voting on. We made that mistake 2 years ago, and that plays into this now, but we can't do that, so I just did for the 2 years. So, draft 1 was we remain the same, and the executive gets the 2%, and just for background information, we should not have voted on that 2 years ago because he wasn't up at that time, but we did. So, technically, we've made the promise. Just wanted to let you guys know that that happened, and you know, that plays into people's thought process.
Can you explain what so we made that through,
Back when we did the county, all the County 5 pay raises, and we did the chairs, you remember
We did the executive.
the ones that came off of that. At that time, we put in there, we voted on the county executives. We probably shouldn't have because the county executive wasn't up. There was no filing for him that year. He wasn't up until this time. He's not on the same schedule as the other countywides. Having said that, we did vote to include his pay raises. So we made the commitment even though we probably made it 2 years early. So I just wanted commissioners to have that understanding when they're deciding what to do with the county exec today, because if we voted to not give it to him, we technically, I believe, have the right to do that, but we're backing away from a vote that we made, a commitment that we made. Okay? And then draft 3 was 2 and 2 for each. So there were a lot of commissioners that didn't want any pay raises, and there were commissioners that wanted to plug in the 2 that the countywides got. So, and I believe Bob came up with the idea, let's split the difference. We'll give the executive what we promised him, and we'll split the difference and go 1. That's what the employees got, is my understanding. So that keeps us from getting, you know, that's where that one came from. And draft 4 is what Commissioner Gillette asked for, which is we remain the same and the county exec remains the same. With no, right, he wouldn't get the ones that were plugged in for him. They got 1%, is that, they got 1%. So with that, do you, no, it is for us.
what about for the executive?
I'm trying to get down here. Okay, thanks. Right. Number 2 gives us 1%, which is consistent with what the employees have. So, would you like to speak before I open it? No? All right, so.
Make a motion for option 4, please.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Gillette for option 4. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Kraft. Any questions? All right, please vote on your iPad. Motion passes 7-5. So draft number 4 is incorporated, and now we have to look at amendments option A and option B. So option A is with regard to removing the section on attendance. Is there a motion for option A?
We just got this. Can we just take a minute and look at it?
This was in our packet. Yeah, it was in our packet.
So this one's not different?
No, the difference is on option B, and I'll explain that again So this is what was in the packet. Is there a motion to remove or modify the paragraph on attendance? Move, well, can I get the motion? Moved by Duge, support by Gillette.
I'd like to make a change in the motion, change in the wording anyway, to get rid of or assigned committee.
Well, I think you're making a change to the wrong motion. This is what the motion is made to. No, this is A.
This is to remove the whole thing, so you want to change something and then vote to remove it?
This is to remove the whole thing?
Yeah, so you don't want to change it before you remove it. Do you still want to be the motion maker?
Yes.
Okay, moved by Duge, supported by Gillette. Are there any questions?
Question, what did I support?
Remove or modify, which one is it?
I can't.
Remove or modify? He needs to make that clear.
Oh, well, it does say to remove or modify. Do you want to remove it or do you want to modify it, Commissioner Duge?
I'll vote to remove it.
You're not voting, you're just motioning.
Well, motion to
Right,
remove.
you've voted to remove, you've made a motion to remove that paragraph, and Commissioner Gillette has supported, correct?
I think I did.
If you don't want to, you can remove your support. All right, please vote. Please vote on your iPad.
Yes is to remove, yes.
Yes is to remove that paragraph. Okay, motion passes 8-4 with Commissioner Smith, Toko, Carabelli, and Kleinfeld voting no. And I failed to do that on the last one, and I apologize. Okay, option B is for the commissioners that came on after January 1, 2011. The change that you got at the table means the exact same thing, except it was made clearer so that inadvertently commissioners that are in the defined benefit plan would not be eligible for two pensions. That's the only difference. So if you had already read that, you know what the intent is. So is there a motion on the amendment to the fringe benefits? Okay.
Which option, are you in A or B now?
We're on option B. These weren't a choice between A and B. Option B is a separate amendment than option A. Okay.
So what does this one do?
Yes. After the commissioners removed commissioners out of the pension system, but grandfathered themselves, they remained in the pension system and the new commissioners were out. After that happened, the county negotiated that all new employees after January 1, 2016 are in a defined contribution system. That includes the countywide elected officials as well. So it does, doesn't it, Steve? I just want to make sure I'm right, that includes the countywides if somebody comes on after January 1.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So the only ones that aren't in either system are the commissioners that came on after January 1, 2011. The benefits would not be retroactive. But as of 2019, they could start putting into the defined contribution plan.
And what's the cost to the county or to the retirement?
Steve has that.
I'm sorry, I'm not even pressing the button.
Oh, no, you know what? I didn't know if you had that calculation. We were discussing the other thing.
When you're asking about the cost, is it the cost of the defined contribution for all
Just-
employees or just?
Just the commissioners, And you did this, I thought you
I
calculated.
did it for the whole board.
You did it
I
for
did
the
it
whole
if
board.
every commissioner.
So once everybody's gone
once
that's
every-
in the pension system, the cost was 35.
Just over
was
30,000.
30,000 a year. That's after everybody's gone that's in the pension system. Yes.
2019, whoever is elected in those positions, and they're not part of any other program, they'll be eligible to participate in this plan. Be it that if there's commissioners up here that have been here a while, that are in another plan, they wouldn't be eligible. But it could be if everybody's voted out and all 19 or all 13 are new. Just want to make sure we clarify that.
Correct.
Very good, Jim.
And in the event there were 13, it was just over 30,000 a year. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Who's made a motion? Who made a, do I have a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to, first, I'm going to seek a motion before we open up for the more conversation. Is there a motion? Okay, Commissioner Brown made a motion. Is there support? Commissioner Gillette supported. Chair Smith, your name?
So, Steve, from there, you don't have to keep getting up if you don't mind. Are the commissioners at this point that aren't involved in the defined benefit program, are the commissioners really the only group that's not in the defined contribution? Okay,
Full-time.
right,
Part-timers are not.
right. But of those of us that actually, you get health benefits, everything else, we're the only group that's not included in this. And it caused, I mean, obviously is no legacy cost to the county. It's strictly a yearly cost at worst case scenario, 30,000, I think you said, right?
30,600 actually.
Right, if every single one of them were in that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and at this time, several aren't. Commissioner Kraft?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm a new commissioner. I have no contribution plan. If we vote yes on this, then I would have the option, or that would be, if I am reelected, I could go into this plan, and is there a county match, or is this just my dollars going into that
No,
plan?
there is, that's where the 30,000 comes from. It's 3% employee and there's a 6% match from the county. There is a vesting period, though. I don't have that written down here. 5 years? Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Gillette.
I think I'm a little more confused, and it probably shouldn't be this confusing. But just to take a commissioner who's elected for the first time ever, in 2016, are they currently eligible for any retirement plan of any sort? They are not. Okay. So what we're doing is now saying that somebody elected in this next election cycle in 2018 can be part of the defined contribution plan, the same as any other full-time employee and elected.
As well as, there are other commissioners in question. So yes, and, okay. Yes.
Okay, so there are currently commissioners who have been here a long time who are part of the defined benefit plan.
Yes.
Are there also commissioners who've been here maybe not long enough to be in the defined benefit plan, but were included in a previous incarnation of the defined contribution plan? No. Okay, so there's only defined benefit plan commissioners who've been here a long time, and then those are not part of any retirement plan.
Anybody who's been on since 2011 is not a part of anything.
Are you trying to figure out the situation you're talking about with respect to your situation?
No, that's impossible to figure out, Madam Chair, but because I've been elected dozens of times over many years, it seems. But no, I guess I'm just trying to figure out what we're moving, what the amendment that I seconded actually, the effect it has. I thought
It's very simple. When we went to define contribution countywide, the commissioners were all grandfathered into the pension system that had the pension system.
Gotcha.
But the new commissioners didn't have anything. But when the new employees went to define contribution, the new commissioners didn't, but the new countywides did. So the commissioners sitting up here that came here after 2011 don't have anything. And those are the commissioners we're speaking about.
So if we don't adopt alternative option B, how does that differ from if we do adopt alternative option B?
Because commissioners, effective January 1, 2019, the commissioners that are not in the defined benefit pension system could enroll in the defined contribution pension.
Under alternate option B or under or before alternate option B?
No, that's what you were voting on.
Okay, so alternate option B.
There is no alternate option B.
Well, it's
isn't
called
changed.
alternate option B.
Well, the only difference between the alternate and the original B is a clarification of the writing. No difference in the intent.
Okay.
It clarified it, Leanne.
Yes, I'm absolutely positive.
So.
And I've run this by the finance director, and he agrees with me that the new option is clearer writing to accomplish the same thing.
Gotcha. So what's already in effect with our last vote and existing votes is there's no option B or alternate option B in place, and we are putting that in place with this particular vote.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, so by voting for this, we are allowing, we are essentially saying that.
We're actually voting for the alternate. There shouldn't have been two options because this one's not clear. We clarified it. This was what was in your packet. So Crystal wrote this up as alternate option B, but this is the one we're voting on. They mean the same thing.
Okay.
This one's just written clearer.
Okay. I think I do understand now. And I apologize for dragging that out, but I wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Commissioner Lucido.
In the paragraph written, it says 8 years of credited service.
Right, that's not new. That's for the people that's not you or me.
We're 5 years, it would be 5 years.
Right, that isn't us.
Gotcha.
Okay, are there any other questions? Please vote on your iPad. All right, motion passes 9-3. Woo, we've gotten through it. So all of that is going to be put together, and then the entire ordinance will go to the full board. Okay, new business.
So right now, in 2019, commissioners will be eligible if they want to partake in the process, correct? As
That's
far as the
correct.
raises, there was 0 raises.
Oh, I'm sorry. And we discussed this and I forgot to ask Steve if we should put it in here. That is subject to the change to the retirement ordinance. If the retirement ordinance,
It's not dependent on the retirement commission.
It's not.
No.
This is totally separate. This is not
DC
a
plan
legacy.
is not subject to anything with DB ordinance.
okay,
So
That's good.
if you're not eligible to the DB plan, then you're not subject to any clauses in the pension ordinance.
okay,
You're just excluded from it in its totality.
okay, thank you. Yeah, no, we will have because
Care of that. The next one is there's no absences or anything that's completely removed. The next-
That's been
The
removed.
next one is there was 0 raises. It was 0 raises across the board. Just for the
That's
zero
what passed.
incremental raise. Just want to make sure it's clear. Thank you.
That's what passed. It'll all be put together, and you'll see the full version before we vote on it on full board. Is there any other new business? Okay. Oh, yes. The full board tomorrow has been changed to 1:30. just so everybody knows. And with that, we have public participation. Executive Delton.
I'm sorry. I may be a little bit more confused than some of you were during this discussion, but I just want to clarify something before I leave here today on the ordinance, particularly the draft number 4 that was adopted. I want to make sure that I understand it clearly. In draft number 4, policy, you listed all of the salaries for the board chair, and all of the countywide elected officials. Was that? It's in there.
What we were doing is we were going, I know he's talking about those drafts.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just finish here.
And I'll be honest with you, until we vote on this, those drafts shouldn't be created because I know where this is going. Go ahead.
Okay. So all those salaries that were set 2 years ago, because you had an obligation to do that, before the 2016 election, all of those salaries, for the most part, were adopted from the compensation study you had done. You just moved the numbers over into your ordinance. And you had listed, and you had even carried over the county executive's recommended salary for those 4 years, even though you were 2 years premature doing that. What I believe you did here today, and I just want to make sure everybody understands that, is that you adopted all of those same salaries that were raised for good reason, because it had been 10, 12, 14 years since raises were given. You still followed that same model for the board of commissioners and for the countywide elected officials, with the exception of the county executive. So what you did here tonight, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you kept the salary of the county executive at the 2011 rate when he entered office of $139,000. And even though the compensation study for elected officials was recommending something else and you adopted it 2 years ago prematurely, tonight what you did is you're keeping it the same for the next 4-year term. I just want to make sure that that's what I'm understanding.
That's exactly what draft 4 does, except it also keeps the commissioners at the same level. And
But that same level was increased 2 years ago because you followed the recommendation to a T of the compensation study that was done. And some of the commissioners were not here for that compensation study.
oh,
I just want to make sure that I understand.
if there's a mistake at that,
What you adopted tonight was keeping the old salary of 139, whatever it is, that was adopted when the charter began for the next 4 years.
right, he's at that right now, and his raise was supposed to kick in January, correct?
If he's reelected, it'll kick in January of 19.
Yes.
But it was going to kick in at the higher rate had you adopted the recommendation for that position. But what I believe you did here tonight, and that's why I'm a little bit confused, is you voted to keep him at his current salary, even though the compensation study you had done 2 years ago recommended something else. And you adopted all the other countywides, including his, even though it was 2 years early.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chair Smith.
Sorry. I think you're exactly right. And I think what was the intent, and we didn't adopt anything, we moved it forward, so
Right.
we have still an opportunity to do something. I believe the intent was to vote for 0% increases while keeping what we voted for 2 years ago as all the new salaries to carry forward. As soon as you pointed out that 139,000, I realized that is the number that was in there originally from the charter. I'm going to say that I voted on, well, I didn't vote for it actually, but nonetheless, I believe that the intent, and I think we're going to look at this tonight and remodify this and look at it tomorrow, was 0% increases based on what we believed everybody, and we forgot the executive did not get his raise 2 years ago, even though we voted on it 2 years ago to go with the compensation study.
Right.
So most of us were thinking he was already at 160,
No, he's still at the
No, you're right.
149, yeah.
And thanks for pointing that out, and I think I'm gonna make something for the meeting tomorrow to pull this up again to re-look at that in that light to make sure that everybody meant to do what they did. 'Cause I
Okay,
think
and
you're right.
to help with to explain to Commissioner Gillette, when you came up with what you did in changing the charter and all of that, you were under the assumption he'd already been moved to the salary that took place a few years ago that we voted on, as opposed to having not had a raise since 2011. So back then, when we voted on that compensation study, we did vote to change his base pay, and it would be effective 2019. So what they meant to put in here was that new base pay, and then as your request 000, just so you understand what the discussion is.
You may still want to vote the same, but that was not the intention. I think the intention was based on everybody's pay being adjusted like the compensation study said, and then do we give incremental increases beyond that?
Okay, Commissioner
So,
Gillette.
go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that, addressing that. Yeah, my intent was to have nobody receive any additional pay increases moving forward. I was not aware that the executive had not received the increase 2 years ago. I was not aware of that fact. So we certainly can bear that in mind moving forward to the full board meeting.
It's a little bit confusing only because the county executive is he's midterm.
Right.
You know, so 2 years ago, when this board adopted the compensation ordinance for all the electeds, he was midterm. His was not impacted.
Right. I assumed
though
that
there
it
was
had gone up at the
recommendation.
same time as the others, and I was not aware of that. So
Okay,
thank you.
we're going to work on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Before final approval.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. Yeah. Motion to adjourn by Duge, supported by Commissioner Kraft. Please vote.